We now move on to an incredible section by an integral member of the IEEE fraternity, a very passionate IEEE volunteer who has taken up several responsibilities at the IEEE. Dr. Biju, Assistant Professor, College of Engineering, Munnar, Vice Chair, IE, and PEL Chapter, IEEE Kerala Section. He has authored and co-authored multiple peer-reviewed scientific papers and presented works at many national and international conferences. He is a recipient of various awards and accolades, including the Outstanding Volunteer Award from the IEEE Power and Energy Society Kerala Chapter and Outstanding Branch Counselor Award of the IEEE Cochin Subsection. Please join me in extending our warmest welcome to Dr. Biju to lead a session on the types of sponsorships and timeline for yearly conferences. Sir, please.
Thank you, Anjana, for the generous introduction. Hope, Anjana, I am audible.
And yes, sir, you are.
My slides
screen
are
is visible as well.
Okay, thank you. Let me welcome to my topic, types of sponsorships and timeline for yearly conferences. And now I think my job is a little easy now because of since my session is the last session before the panel discussion in this two-day workshop on conference education. And part of my topic is already being covered by the previous speakers. So I hope I will focus on the topics which are not already covered. And let me come to my topic. So the agenda for my presentation is the different types of sponsorships, the timeline for conferences, timeline for different organizing committee members, timeline for publishing and reporting, and if time permits, I will just go through the audit process also. So coming to the types of sponsorship, the IEEE defines the types of sponsorship basically into two types: financial sponsorship and technical sponsorship. And in the financial sponsorship itself, there are two kinds. They are sole sponsorship and financial co-sponsorship. And I will explain each one in detail in the upcoming slides. In the sole sponsorship, the IEEE OU has a complete responsibility on the sponsorship. That means the whole part of the conference, financial, technical, publicity, and administrative running of the conference, all these things are taken by the IEEE OU itself. And in the sole sponsorship, the rights to the conference name, slogan, copyright for publications, and logo, all are owned by IEEE only. And the sole sponsor receives the entire portion of the surplus and is liable for the deficit resulting from the conference also. So if there is a surplus or a deficit, the entire burden has to be borne by the sole sponsor. And the sole sponsor is responsible for oversight of the scope of the conference and managing the entire technical program. So it is up to the OU, the responsibility OU to conduct the entire part of the conference alone in the case of sole sponsorship. And in the case of co-sponsorship, several IEEE organizations, that means more than one IEEE organizational unit comes into the organization of the conferences, such as financial, technical, publicity, and administrative running of the conference. And for this, all the co-sponsors has to come into an agreement which is known as Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. Basically, all the co-sponsors has to execute an agreement that is MOU, which stipulates some conditions on how to being the co-sponsors of the conference. And in the case of co-sponsorship, all the co-sponsors receives a portion of the surplus, and if there is a deficit, definitely all the co-sponsors has to bear the portion of the deficit equally. And all the co-sponsors are responsible for the oversight of the conference and managing the technical program. And all the co-sponsors can use the IEEE logo in all conference publications and announcements, and all the co-sponsors can use the IEEE logo and the call for papers, etc. in their respective websites. Coming to the technical co-sponsorship, an IEEE organizational unit has direct and substantial involvement in the development, organization, and running of the technical program, but there is no financial involvement in the conference. So the technical co-sponsors only has the responsibility for the technical side of the conference, and the financial part of the conferences will be taken care of by other entities. And again, all the technical co-sponsors has to execute an MOU stating different conditions regarding the conference. And the IEEE technical co-sponsor is responsible for defining the scope of the conference and managing the technical program, including oversight of the program development and review process, and participating in the peer review process. So in the case of technical co-sponsorship, the major role of the technical co-sponsor entities are to develop a quality technical program conduct. And for financial co-sponsors, the sponsoring or the organizing team need not pay any amount to IEEE, but for the technical co-sponsored sponsorship, so we have to pay the technical co-sponsored entities has to pay a fee basically to IEEE MGA as the TCS fees. And this year also the fees, as earlier mentioned, the fee is $1,000 per the conference, and $15 per paper if you want to publish that to IEEE. And from next year onwards, the fee is raised to $1,450 for the conference, and $22 per paper if you want to publish that to IEEE. So that means if you don't want to publish the papers to the IEEE Explore, you need to pay only the US dollar of 1,450. And definitely when we reach out to IEEE for conference involvement, we definitely want to have our papers published in IEEE Explore. So definitely we have another expenditure in terms of publication, that is $22 US per paper. That means if there are 100, finally there are 100 papers ready to get published, we have to pay say 22 into 100. That means $2,200 also, plus that $1,450 to IEEE as the our publication charges. So financial co-sponsorship conferences may apply to IEEE financial co-sponsorship together with other IEEE organizations or other not-for-profit non-IEEE organizations also. So for financial co-sponsorship, you can definitely come into part with, you can engage not-for-profit other organizations. That means you can involve other non-IEEE organizations also, but only one condition: these organizations should be not-for-profit organizations. And the benefit of the financial co-sponsorship conferences are that if it is a financially co-sponsored conference, all that such conferences will be insured against all financial risk by IEEE. And we can publicize the conference using IEEE logos, mailing list, and in the IEEE website. And the conference is considered as an IEEE conference. That means you can insert the name IEEE along with the acronym of the conference. Say like IEEE PEDAS, IEEE TENGON, IEEE TENSIM, etc. This is, please note that this is possible only with the IEEE financial co-sponsored or sole sponsored conference only. And this is not possible with the technically co-sponsored conference. So this is an added advantage of a financially co-sponsored conference. Hello. Yeah, sorry. There was a difficulty in moving next screen. Okay. So the financial co-sponsorship requires explicit definition of the relationship between the co-sponsoring organizations in terms of an MOU. And advance approval of the conference budget is required from the IEEE. So this is very important. So we have to submit the conference budget, since it is a financially co-sponsored conference, and it get it approved by IEEE. And while we budgeting for a financial co-sponsored conference, please plan to have at least 20% surplus out of your conference. So this is very important for a financially co-sponsored conference, because all the conferences, none of the conferences are basically expected to be in a loss. So we should see that there is at least some surplus out of the conference. And IEEE involvement in the conference with a responsibility for technical, financial, publicity, and all other. So, in a financially co-sponsored conferences, all other supports will be extended from the IEEE. So, the procedure for applying for financial sponsorship, you should apply to the IEEE well in advance, at least 1 year before of the scheduled date of the conference. And before applying to IEEE, you should first reach out to all other OUs who are part of this financial co-sponsors. So first you should reach out to them and get their consent before applying to IEEE for the conference. And all the OUs must approve the place, date, subject matter, etc. to be covered. So they definitely, when you apply to the OUs, they will definitely take many things into consideration. That includes sound financial planning, benefit. What are the benefit of this conference to the IEEE members? So is there any conflict of interest with other conferences? And they will assure that the conferences will have a very good quality, technical program quality, and the protection of the IEEE brand. And after getting this initial approval from all these entities, you can apply to the IEEE using the IEEE online application form. So there are some other methods of taking part with other units also, other than this financial co-sponsorship. That some non-sponsor support options are also available there, like being partners, contributors, patrons, supporters, publicity, keynotes, exhibitors, etc. So this support can be in the form of direct grants, paid advertising in the event program, services provided in exchange of brand exposure, etc. So these kind of supports can extend these kind of benefits to the conference. So very well, these conference organizers can take the help of these options also while planning for the conference. So coming to the timeline for the conferences, and IEEE ideally suggests some timelines, basically targeting or considering an in-person conference. And nowadays we know that due to this COVID pandemic times, there are some virtual conferences also going on. So definitely, so since conference is a virtual conference, the conference organizers have some saving in time in, say, arranging hotel accommodation, arranging venues, arranging for visa, and others are getting some saving in booking flight tickets, etc. So obviously there can be some relaxations in the timelines if it is a virtual conferences. But IEEE ideally suggests the timelines by taking into consideration that it is in an in-person conference. So the ideal timelines are the pre-conferences, and basically we can categorize the conferences into many categories. There may be small conferences, big conferences, and flagship conferences by various IEEE societies and IEEE regions. So in the case of flagship conferences run by IEEE societies and regions, definitely you have to plan in advance, because for the most of the flagship conferences, you have to reach out to that. They will have their own call for, and first you have to submit your application to that entities, and they will go through that. It will be a rigorous process, and once they give that initial approval, then only we have to reach out to the other procedures of the IEEE. So in the case of flagship conferences, you have to plan very well in advance. Say probably maybe 2 years or before 3 years, you have to start your planning. So so I'm basically going to divide the timelines into the pre-conference part, that is before the conferences, and during that conferences, that either these 3-day conferences or 4-day conferences. So what are the things to be done during that conference, and what are the things to be done after the conferences? That means the post-conference. Okay, I will be detailing it. So the pre-conference part. So we have to determine and apply for sponsorship from all applicable IEEE and non-IEEE OUs well in advance, as I mentioned earlier. So the ideal time frame may be 36 to 24 months. This again varies depending on the magnitude of the conferences. So for a big conferences like flagship conferences, you have to start your planning from 36 months, at least 3 years ahead you have to plan. And for a small conferences, a 2 year span might be enough. And you register your conferences, submit conferences application, and approve your MOU. That you can take the time from say 2 year to 1.5 years. So during this time, you should be able to register your conference to IEEE, submit your online conference application, and get the conference approved. So it is ideally recommended to get your conferences approved at least 18 months before. Then you start develop your communication plans, marketing materials, and conferences website. So prepare your conference website, start your publicity, etc. At least 15 months before your scheduled conference date. Then develop your paper management process, develop technical program, establish paper submission process, deadline, etc. These things you should build at least 1 year before your conferences. So you should decide your paper management submission platform, etc. Then create website for paper submissions. So once you decide your paper submission platform, say Microsoft CMT or Redas or EasyChair, then you do the proper setup in that conference submission platform for start receiving your manuscripts. So this should be ready by at least 10 months before your conference. Then you plan your social, other there may be some social activities, some young professional program, some student program, some tour program along with the conferences, and you can plan these things at least 6 months before your conferences, so that you can post all the details of all those activities in your conference website. Then you complete your paper review process, finalize technical program, and notify the others about the acceptance or not acceptance of the paper. This should be complete at least in 4 months. Ideally, IEEE recommend this to complete well before 6 months. That depends on the size of the conference. If it is a very big conference of more than say 500 authors attending the conference, then definitely you should notify the others very well in advance, maybe probably 6 months before that conference, because all these people has to apply for visa, and most of the others may be applying for visa and booking flight tickets only getting the notification. So you have to inform them very well in advance, at least 4 months before you should complete that process, or the technical program process. Then you should obtain the camera ready paper and copyright form in another 1 month time. So before 3 months, you should ideally obtain all the camera ready papers, copyright, etc. from the others. Then you can start your say local arrangements, review room block with the hotel again settle. Then you will so once the copyright form and the camera ready paper is completed, you have the now you have the correct count of others and delegates with you. So you can now you know the exact count of the conference. So you can definitely book your hotel and other things, other logistics arrangement, traveling arrangement, etc. You can, and that you can probably you can do in another 1 month. So before 2 months, you should be able to complete all these process. Then you can start your registration payment, etc. And you can have an early bird registration. That is ideally recommended, because the early bird for early bird registration there will be a discount in the registration fee. So people may tends to register during that period itself. So the advantage of for the conference is that most people register without any delay, so that you can plan the hotel accommodation count, food count, etc. So that is in fact good for the conference. So please schedule some early bird registration and give a small discount for the early bird registration. And after that, you can give some more time, say 2 weeks time for the final registration also. So before 1 month of the scheduled date of the conferences, you should be able to complete all kind of registration, and you should have the final registered authors and delegates list with you. Then after that, you can have that on-site logistics arrangement, venue arrangement. These are very important. These venue arrangements. These are very. I will come to that later. Then during the conference, you have to do many things. On-site registration, there may be people coming to the registration. There may be sport registration depending on the conference. So if there are some sport registrations, you have to do that. Then monitor. So you have an approved budget, approved by IEEE and approved by your conference organizing committee. So the finance chair has to monitor the budget every day, and the general chair has to monitor daily activities, and he or she has to see that all other chairs are doing their activities properly. Then another important thing is to collect the feedback every day. It is ideally recommended to collect feedback from others and delegates every day, because all the others and delegates may not be present for the conferences throughout. So some others may be attending the conference first day or day, and once they complete their presentations, they may leave the conference, or they may be going for some local sightseeing and all. So collecting feedbacks every day is very important. And these feedbacks are very important, because if it is a continuing conferences, so this feedback is very important for correcting our mistakes for the before the next conferences. And conducting review meetings, these are also very important. So it is recommended to conduct review meetings every day by there will be a core organizing committee, and the core organizing committee may convene the review meetings every day after the dinner, or all the arrangements, all the schedule of programs of each day. So there are some jobs left after the conferences also, especially the most job is for the publication chair. So you have to submit the conference proceedings and conduct as per this. So there is a letter of acquisition executed by the publication chair before the conferences with the IEEE, and it mandates that all the conferences proceedings should be submitted to IEEE before 1 month after the expiry of the conferences. So you have to see that you submit all the conferences proceedings in the form of CD, USB, or nowadays there are some online links IEEE recommends, and since these are virtual conference also, now IEEE gives some links to the conferences organizers, general chairs or publication chairs, to submit all the conferences proceedings as a zip file. So ideally you have to complete all these things to IEEE within 1 month. And that is good for our conference organizers also, because if we submit all the documents in time, so our conference proceedings will appear in the IEEE Explorer in pretty good time, say maybe in 2 months or 2.5 months. And that is a good credit to the IEEE organizers. Otherwise, the problem is that if we delay, all the others will be asking query why my paper is not appearing in the IEEE like that. So that will create some headaches for the organization. So you should see that you submit, you do all the post conferences works in time. And the other part is that financial part of the conferences. And here the finance chair of the conferences has a major role. And he or she has to close the conferences bank account, submit proof. So there is a proof of closure form suggested by IEEE. So you have to submit, you have to show that my conferences account is closed. If on most of the conferences there will be a IEEE mandates for a separate bank account. And after the conferences, ideally in 3 months time, you have to close that bank account and send to IEEE a closure form. And there next comes the audit. And there are basically different types of audits, and if time permits, I will cover that audits at the end of my presentation. And you have to complete that all the audit process in 5 months. IEEE mandates that. So you should complete all the auditing procedures in 5 months time. And you submit the final financial report with there is a form certification of accuracy. So you have to the financial that report is an online report that you have to submit it online. So you have to enter all the details, financial, so income details, expenditure details, actual, because for getting the approval of the budget, you will be submitting a tentative budget. Okay. And after the conferences, now you have a clear budget with you, a correct budget. So at the end of the conference, you have to submit a correct 100% correct budget to IEEE, and that is an online submission link. So the finance chair has to submit it online to IEEE, and there is a certification of accuracy form that also the conference organizers has to come. So ideally, all the post conferences work has to be completed in 6 months time. So it is not fair to delay the conference work before these 6 months, because if it is a biennial conference, you have to start planning for the next edition of the conference. Okay, so complete all the post conferences works in 6 months of time after the expiry of the conference. So now I will be quickly going through the because of the interest of time. Now it is 12 past, so I will quickly go through the different timelines for the different organizing committee members and the general chair. As I suggested, general chair has to establish the conference organizing committee, contact previous years committee for best practice, etc. That he has to do well in advance before 2 years itself. Reach out to conference sponsors and all, and finalize the scheme. Very important, you finalize the scope of the conference's topic. If for a biennial conferences, if there is a technology advancement, if you are planning to incorporate some technological advancement into your conferences, that also you have to do very well in advance, and you start submitting application to IEEE in 24 to 18 months time. Treasurer. So he or she has to submit the budget to IEEE after getting the approval from the core organizing committee, and submit this budget to IEEE MCE, and this IEEE has to approve your budget before giving the final approval of the conference, etc. So a lot of roles, and as I mentioned, the finance chair or treasurer has a major role. After the end of the conferences, he or she has to submit all the financial reports, to do the auditing. All other forms has to be done, taken care by the treasurer of the conference. Then technical program committee chair has to develop the technical program, call for paper preparation, etc., conduct the review, etc. All these things should start before 18 months, and all these things should be completed by the TPC chair in 4 months time. Then the publication chair has a role before the conferences as well as after the conferences. So before the conference, the publication chair has to execute the letter of acquisition (LOA) with the IEEE, and after the conferences, this publication chair has to submit all the conferences proceedings to the IEEE. So the publication chair duty starts from 18 months before the conferences to 1 month after the conference. So another role is for publicity chair. So publicity chair should see that enough publicity is given to the conference. Otherwise, the conference may find it difficult to get enough number of quality papers. So the publicity chair should start the publicity well in advance, at least 2 years, at least 1.5 years before the conferences. So he should see all the. So publicity chair can develop a publicity committee and divide the work, because publicity team has maybe how to reach out to various universities, various IEEE entities, non-IEEE entities for getting publicity for the conference. So the publicity chair has to do their work throughout the conferences, because the conference may extend the deadlines in some cases. So the publicity team has to publicize that the conference deadlines are extended like that. So publicity chair has a major role in the conference. So again, local arrangements chair, there may be some local arrangements chair or some organizing chair, etc. And the organizing chair has a major role in arranging the hotel venue, the venue arrangements, hotel arrangements, etc., transportation arrangements, etc. And the public local arrangement has to do all these things in pretty good time. And the registration chair has to do all the registration work. So once the TPC chair completes the review process, then the registration chair has to start the registration process, setting up the payment gateway, registration site, etc. And on-site registration also to be managed by the registration chair. And the sponsorship chair has a major role, sponsorship bar exhibit chair. So he or she has to get the sponsorship from different entities, and sponsorship is very important in the conferences, because sponsorship chair is also responsible for the surplus or deficit of the conferences, and he has to see that the exhibit part of the conference, there will be some booths. He has to arrange all the booths, and he has to see that there are some good exhibits for the conferences as well. Then at the end, we have to have some audit. All the conferences are ideally, whether it is a financial conferences or a technically co-sponsored conference, all the conferences are expected to be audited properly after the end of the conference. And IEEE have different types of audits. And if our conference income is more than 250,000 US dollar, and the IEEE financial sponsorship is greater than 15%, then it is then the audit is going to be a very rigorous process. Then there are some in that cases there are some stipulations by IEEE that there are so you have to do the audit like this, like so there are different rules by IEEE for such kind of conference. And basically the bigger conferences only comes in that category, and all our small or medium conference definitely this that kind of conference will not come into this range, because 250,000 US dollar is a very big amount. Only three major conference only will come to that category. And in that case, the general chair and the finance chair has to be extremely careful throughout the conferences regarding this audit part. And basically, there are three types of audit. First category is with the financial responsibility greater than 50%, and the actual income or expense is greater than 250,000 US dollar. So in that case, there is a rigorous process, audit process by IEEE. It's a very difficult process. So extreme care is to be taken in these cases. And the second category is the financial responsibility greater than 50% and less than $250,000. In that case, IEEE may go for the internal audit, and they have some more stringent conditions. That is but optional, but the first case it is mandatory. And then the third case, most of the conferences comes in the third category, where we can have our own auditors, and we can do we have the freedom to select our auditor, and we can get the auditor statement by an auditor chosen by ours, and we can submit the audit report to IEEE. And for external auditors, the auditors suggested by IEEE, the fee is very high, and that comes in the first category only, and the fee is capped at 6,000 US dollar, and we can see that it is a very big amount, and that is applicable for the first category audit only. And if you choose to use IEEE auditing team, then there is an audit checklist which is available in IEEE website. You have to go through that. And if you are choosing an external auditor, then the auditor will need to be reviewed and approved by IEEE internal audit team. IEEE this recommends this, but for the third category conferences, IEEE doesn't mandates that, and we have the freedom to do that. So thank you for listening, and it's I will be happy to take any queries. Thank you.
Sir, due to time constraints, any queries that we the students may have can be moved on to the panel discussion. Participants are requested to post any questions that you may have into the chat section so that we may answer them during the panel discussion. Thank you so much, sir, for your very illuminating session. Your guidance on the types of sponsorship and timeline have been extremely constructive and worthwhile. We would like to present a small token of our gratitude for being a part of IEEE POCO 2020.
Thank you for the nice moment of happy to accept.
Thank you once again, sir.